In 2022, one of the most prestigious figures in the crypto world was making decisions with billions of dollars in customer funds. Today, he is serving a 25-year prison sentence. The United States Department of Justice ordered the forfeiture of more than $11 billion. The question is not only how it happened, the question is why so many intelligent people, including institutional investors, trusted someone who was not going to pay the real cost if he was wrong. This video is about that. Why the person who decides without paying the cost makes worse decisions, and what to do about it. In the next 15 minutes, you will get 3 tools, not theory. 1. A 3-question filter to evaluate who you should believe, especially when that person has credentials, an audience, or a title. 2. A test to audit any key indicator, bonus, or commission structure in your team or your portfolio, and detect where invisible risk is accumulating. 3. A 3-layer protocol to make better decisions when you do have real exposure to the cost of being wrong. The 3 playbooks follow a sequence. First, you detect the risk that others are transferring to you. Then, you design so that this does not happen in what you control. And finally, you learn to decide better when the money, the time, or the reputation are yours. The operating principle is simple. In any decision that affects you, 3 things matter. Who captures the benefit if it goes well, who pays the cost if it goes wrong, and whether they are the same person in reasonable proportion. When they are not, there is an asymmetry. And asymmetries are not neutral. They produce decisions that are systematically riskier than they appear, because the person deciding is not feeling what will happen to someone else. This is not a moral principle. It is mechanics. If I win when it goes well and you lose when it goes wrong, my risk calculation is broken by design. Not because of bad intentions, because of structure. This changes 3 things for an operator. It changes who you listen to, it changes how you pay your team, and it changes how you position yourself when money, time, or reputation are on the line. Let's go through the 3. Playbook 1. Detect advice that loads risk onto you. The common reflex is to evaluate advice by the intelligence of the person giving it. That is the wrong reflex. The operating criterion is different. What does this person lose specifically if their advice goes wrong for you? Case: Citigroup, the 2008 financial crisis. Robert Rubin, former Treasury Secretary, member of Citi's board, senior advisor, one of the most respected figures on Wall Street. According to ProPublica, he received at least $115 million in payments during his time at Citigroup, not including stock options. When the crisis exploded, Citi lost around $30 billion in the subprime securities market and received $45 billion in public bailout money. Rubin's argument before the commission investigating the crisis was, in essence, that the crisis was not foreseeable and that the losses were not due to a lack of managerial attention. Read the mechanics carefully. Benefit captured: $115 million in personal compensation during the boom. Cost absorbed: shareholders, taxpayers, and the financial system. Proportional return of the damage: none. Operating conclusion: for years he was advising on risks he was not going to pay for. This is not a case about Robert Rubin. Rubin is the readable example. When your analyst, your advisor, your social media guru, or the founder you admire tells you what to do with your capital or your career, the question is not whether they are intelligent. The question is what they lose if you follow their advice and you are wrong. Common operator mistake: treating credentials as evidence of advice quality. Credentials are evidence of access, access to the system, access to the media, access to the pulpit, but they are not evidence of exposure to your results. Practical action: a 3-question filter, applicable in 30 seconds before following any important advice. 1. What does this person lose in concrete terms if their advice is wrong? 2. What does this person get paid even if things go badly for me? 3. Who absorbs the final loss? Them, me, or a third party? If the answers are nothing, a commission or audience, and me, then the advice is not discarded. It is discounted heavily. The difference matters. You are not closing the door to advice. You are adjusting the weight you give it. Audit question: of the last 3 major decisions you made under someone's influence, how many of those people had capital, reputation, or time exposed to the same outcome as you? If the answer is 0, you do not have bad luck. You have a broken input process. Design incentives where the person deciding also pays. Here we move from input to structure. Playbook 1 tells you who to listen to. Playbook 2 tells you how to build a system where asymmetry does not appear by default. Case: Wells Fargo. Between 2002 and 2016, the bank agreed to pay $3 billion for criminal and civil investigations. Under pressure from unrealistic sales targets, thousands of employees opened millions of accounts and products without customer consent. The Department of Justice called it a complete failure of leadership at multiple levels. Read the structure. Who designed the targets? Senior management. Who captured the benefit of hitting those targets? Senior management, through bonuses, bank valuation, and the perception of growth. Who absorbed the cost? Fired employees, customers with damaged credit, and shareholders who paid the fine. The people who designed the system were not subject to the system. That is why it lasted 14 years. Not because nobody saw the problem. Thousands of employees lived it every day. It lasted because the structure rewarded those who could ignore it. Common operator mistake. Believing that a broken incentive system can be fixed with culture, written values, or training. It cannot. The metric always wins. If you reward volume without penalizing damage, you will produce damage. If you reward speed without penalizing errors, you will produce errors. If you reward growth without penalizing fragility, you will produce collapses. This is not moralism. It is system mechanics. Practical action. The symmetry test. Apply it to every key indicator, commission, or bonus that you design, accept, or are subject to. 1. Who captures the benefit if this metric is achieved? 2. Who absorbs the cost if this metric is achieved in a destructive way? 3. Are they the same person in reasonable proportion? If the third answer is no, you do not have a cultural problem. You have a bomb in the system. That bomb is not diffused with a quarterly email about values. It is diffused by redesigning where the consequences fall. Audit question. In your team, portfolio, or company, identify the most important indicator. If it is achieved in the worst possible way, who wins and who loses? If it is not the same person, you already know where the system will break. The only question is when. Playbook 3. Decide when you are exposed to the cost of being wrong. Here there is a trap almost nobody names, and it is the most important playbook of the three. Having skin in the game does not automatically make you decide better. It gives you feedback. Feedback without a protocol becomes panic, bias, or doubling down to recover. Case: Archegos Capital, Bill Huang. According to the SEC, Archegos went from approximately $1.5 billion in value and $10 billion in exposure in March 2020 to more than $36 billion in value and $160 billion in exposure at its peak. 12 months later, the instrument was total return swaps, instruments that allowed massive positions with limited upfront capital. Huang had all his capital inside. He had skin in the game in the most literal sense. He lost everything in a matter of days when the market moved. Read the asymmetry carefully because it is counterintuitive. Huang was exposed to the benefit of his leverage, but the banking counterparties were exposed to the real cost. When margin calls failed, they absorbed billions of dollars in losses. Being inside is not the same as having a system to manage what happens when the position moves against you. Common operator mistake: confusing emotional commitment with risk management. I am all in is not a strategy. It is a statement. The protocol is in how you enter, how you measure, and how you exit, not in how much you put in. Practical action: a 3-layer protocol. Layer 1. Acceptable worst-case scenario, defined calmly before entering. Not the expected scenario, not the optimistic one. The acceptable one. The concrete question is this: if this gets cut in half, what remains operationally intact? If you do not have a calm answer before entering, you do not enter. Layer 2. Decision separated from execution. The decision is made once, written, with rules. Execution follows the rules. Improvised judgment under adverse movement is not judgment. It is reaction disguised as judgment. Layer 3. Continuous audit of concentration and leverage. Not only return. 3 weekly questions. Written: how much can I lose? In how much time? What events trigger it? Profitability is an output metric. Concentration and leverage are survival metrics. Audit question: your largest position, company, or decision today? If it dropped 50% tomorrow, do you know exactly what you would do in the first 48 hours? And what would remain intact? If the answer is not exact and written, you do not have a system, you have a bet. And the bet can go well many times, but the day it goes wrong in a way you do not control. Operating summary. Playbook 1. The cost filter. Evaluate advice by exposure, not by credentials. Playbook 2. The symmetry test. In any incentive system, make sure that the person who captures the benefit also absorbs the cost of destructive compliance. Playbook 3. The 3-layer protocol. Being exposed without a system is not courage. It is a bet. I want to close with a case that changes the scale. Boeing 737 MAX. According to the Department of Justice, Boeing agreed to pay more than $2.5 billion for conspiracy to defraud the FAA. Company employees concealed material information about the MCAS system. Pilot manuals and training did not include it. 2 crashes, Lion Air 610 and Ethiopian Airlines 302, caused 346 deaths. Same mechanics we saw in the 3 playbooks. The people making decisions about certification, schedule pressure, and communication with the regulator were too far away from the people who would pay for the error. The asymmetry was not in a financial transaction, it was in the design of the process. When the decision lives in one place and the consequence appears somewhere else, it is not a question of whether it will fail, it is a question of when, and at what scale. Before closing, a 20-minute audit for this week. 3 blocks. Written, not mental. Block 1, 5 minutes. List the 3 people or sources that most influence your capital or career decisions. Next to each one, write in one line what they lose concretely if they are wrong with you. If you cannot answer, write this: pays nothing. That list is your input map. If 3 out of 3 pay nothing, you know why your decisions over the last 12 months look the way they do. Block 2. 8 minutes. Identify the most important key indicator, bonus or commission in your job, team, or portfolio. Write 2 columns. Who wins if it is achieved? Who pays if it is achieved in the worst possible way? If the 2 columns do not meet in the same person, mark that system as exposed. You do not have to fix it today. You have to know where it is. Block 3. 7 minutes. Your largest position, company, or decision today. Write in 3 lines what you would do in the first 48 hours if it dropped 50% tomorrow, what would remain intact, and what specific event could trigger it. If you cannot write it in 3 lines while calm, it is not because it is complicated, it is because you do not have it. 20 minutes, 1 page, 3 blocks. That is the difference between operating with a system and operating with a narrative. If this system was useful, subscribe. At Playbooks Dekaja, we do not summarize books. We turn the best ones into decision systems you can apply to your money, your team, and your career. One more thing, and it is the only thing you need to remember from this video. Before following advice, executing a metric, or entering a large position, ask yourself one question. If this goes wrong, who pays? If the answer is not you, discount it. If the answer is you and you do not have a system, do not enter yet. Now, I want to read real cases. Where do you see a risk asymmetry in your company, market, portfolio, or industry? Simple format. Who decides? Who wins if it goes well? Who pays if it goes wrong? See you in the next playbook.